Hi everyone. I think Margaret made the point very clearly that PRIMA is designed to be a community resource, a community instrument, and that's through the GEO program, community intended as people outside from the PRIMA team will make most of observations through the GEO observing program. And we expect we'll also make a lot of research from archival data, since all data will eventually be quite quickly public through the archive with a good level of access to calibration data and science products. So everyone should be able to access the data and do research. And we expect that this kind of research will cover a way larger area of science than just the PI science. So this is why even at this stage, at phase A, we're really looking into getting the community at large engaged. And sorry, this is the other way around. So we had started this work of community engagement 2 years ago with a geoscience book, which is now called Geoscience Book Volume 1, was published in November 2023 and ended up collecting 76 community contributed cases from people really internationally. Many scientific areas, we're talking solar system to high-Z polarimetry. So just that collection total about 21,000 hours of observations, a large part of what is expected to be offered to the GEO program, with interestingly similar requests for either premature-only programs, virus-only programs, or programs combining both. So thank you to everyone here who already contributed to that effort. So now, 2 years later, we're restarting this effort with a volume 2, and contributions are now open. There's a form, here's a QR code, but I also put the link in the chat when I can. Submission deadline is expected to be end of May for publication in the late summer. So that's a great way for anyone, but especially people who haven't been involved closely with PRIMA yet, to get very familiar with the concept, the specification, and to become an active part of the PRIMA community. So we welcome new cases, revised cases, I'll specify a little bit later. And there's a team dedicated to support writers. So myself and Denis are the main contacts, but there's also a full team of about 7 editors. And in general, PRIMA team members are available to answer questions and support proposers. So these are a few pointers on how one can get started in submitting a new GeoCase for publication in the book. What I would recommend is to look at the GeoBook Volume 1 to get a sense of type of expectation for these contributions, what has been proposed, ideas, and also to be sure that your idea hasn't already been published. I recommend looking at the instrument page on our website and the fact sheet. That's the most up-to-date information on the specs. And look at the science page, also on the website, for information on what the PI science is. If you think your idea is based on PI survey observations, that also they're welcome. And please contact us so we can discuss what these surveys are and help you put your GI case together, archival case. The general parameters for these cases is that all observing modes available are offered, and GEO programs can be quite large, up to 1,000 of hours. We had one case in the volume 1 that was 5,000 hours, and that was a very welcome contribution. And expect the contribution to be 3 to 8 pages based on the template we provide. So now that you have a better sense of the general parameters, you can go into feasibility. Of course, the first step is estimate your target brightness, size, line width. But then you can test that brightness against the ETC. to get a sense of a time or detection of mapping. And there will be a talk right away after this talk about using the ETC. ETC has important notes that are really helpful for understanding feasibility. But again, each doubt that you have, you can reach out. We're really here and we're happy to answer questions. There may be aspects that are not completely covered, for example, on how continuum subtraction works, what are the saturation level. Other question could be time constraints or whether solar systems sources are supported, although I can answer that right away, they are. Anything that you don't find on the resources online, you can just reach out. For those of you who already wrote a volume 1 GeoCase, it could be very interesting to resubmit it. I mean, it's been 2 years, so there's a lot of science that came up since then, so that some of the science might need to be updated, but also the ETC is now online. So it's a chance to have a very realistic and more accurate estimate of time integration. I'm just quickly describing the different sections in the template. It's a template that is very similar to the one we used a couple of years ago. The first part is the science justification. That's the place where you address, well, the science question, how PRIMA and PRIMA wavelength and sensitivity is needed, and where you describe hypotheses that you want to test with the measurement. We really like when there's a figure that highlights the discovery space enabled by PRIMA. Of course, I recognize that it's not always feasible or possible, but reach out if you have an idea of a figure. There may be tools that we have that may help if you have a very actionable idea or a simulation. Second section is this table. So this has changed a little bit from the volume 1, if you were familiar with this one. This is where you specify the modes that you will be using, the instruments that you will be using. So for PHI-RES, there are different modes that are spelled out. And for each of those, you specify the number of pointings. And for mapping, the size of the map, we introduced the option of high-res mapping that Matt quickly described. It's really how to combine multiple pointings to make a map. So if you intend to use that mode, reach out because we may have information to share on how to calculate integration times. For Primager, what we request in this table is which band you need, hyperspectral or polarimetry. Of course, you will get both, but we'd like to understand which one is your main interest or maybe all of them. If you are interested in the polarimetry information and the details on your mapping area. So everything, this information is really helpful for us to understand what is of interest to the community, but really you can fill out to the best of your knowledge. We don't need very precise, exact numbers, just indications, and we'll come back to you if anything seems unclear. And the last page is more details about your observing plan. So that's where the integration time comes up, and you should specify whether you use the ETC. We will check those numbers, so just to make sure everything is consistent, and you can ask help anytime to use the ETC. Whether you needed special capabilities, think of timing requirements, special calibration that you may need, and a description of the observational strategy. So this is an example of a very one of the shortest observing plans details that we received in volume 1. You see, there are many details, but that was enough for us to see that this project was feasible and interesting. So once you have submitted, what will happen is that one editor will be assigned to your submission, and there will be a conversation that could be very short or a bit longer, depending on how much there is to agree on. That will happen over the summer. And at minimum, you will be contacted twice, once before we send your submission to formatting. So, we need to agree if we have some suggestion that we made, for example, on the time estimates. And the second time will be after formatting. You have a last chance to change or review your submission before it's integrated in a compiled volume. But again, the team of editor is there at any time to support you before or during or after you submit it. And just a note for our Japan-based submissions, there is the opportunity to have Elizabeth Tasker as JAXA helping proofread your document for language if that's of your interest. And you should contact her a few weeks before the deadline to do that. And I'm reiterating here what Margaret mentioned about 1 hour ago, is that our working groups are active and are welcoming new members. So this is the working group sign up that is still open. And that's another type of opportunity to get involved with the PRIMA team and become a member of the PRIMA community. So one way to also be active in these working groups is to define precursor studies that would help laying the groundwork for PRIMA science. So people at any career stage are welcome to join those working groups. So that's all I had to really say for now. These slides will be online, and below I added some extra slides that you can peruse later with examples of geo cases that have been included in the volume 1, and that may give you some ideas of about the type of science that can be addressed. And that's all I had. Let me come back to this.
All right, thanks, Arielle. So we can take questions now. Irene, go ahead.
How concerned should we be about science overlap of proposed cases with what has been before in the first geo book?
Not a big concern, but we'll deal with those on an individual basis. If the science justification and the observed measurable are exactly the same, yeah, I imagine we wouldn't want to have the same thing mentioned twice, because we're making a tally of the observations that are observed, and we don't want to count one twice. So yeah, we had a discussion about that last week. Reach out to me or Denis, and we will see if it's a complete match, if it's a partial match. Probably we would like to see your science included in the geo book.
Thank you.
Also, just to make the point, if, for example, this is something where you submitted a case to the volume 1 of the GeoBook and you're wondering if you should submit again for the volume 2, we very strongly encourage people to do this. We do know that it is an extra investment of your time, but we appreciate it because it ensures that the case is updated with the latest instrument capabilities. And this lets us sort of have a more complete count again of the statistics and the number of cases, and for example, the total amount of time that people are proposing to use with these geo cases.